As you know, the Korean entertainment industry is highly competitive, and the pressure to maintain a flawless image can be overwhelming. K-pop idols are often expected to present themselves as perfect beings for their fans, and fans end up believing that they are perfect. So when a scandal breaks out about them doing horrific acts, many of them cannot believe it. But we don't know these people. We do not know what they believe in, what their morals are, and what they are doing behind closed doors. So let's go through idols who became criminals. Let's start with not-so-serious charges, like marijuana. As many of us probably think nobody should go to jail for, but in Korea, it's highly illegal. Psy got arrested for consuming marijuana in November 2001. Psy admitted to the crime and said in a police investigation, "I smoked marijuana all the time in the United States and secretly hid marijuana when I returned home. In May, I smoked marijuana because of the stress caused by the release of a new album and the issue of enlisting in the military." He was sentenced to 25 days in jail. As a result, he was unable to be at his grandfather's funeral as he passed away due to cancer. During an interview in 2012, Psy stated, "I was very close to him. I was not there at the funeral. I will regret this for the rest of my life, because my grandpa loved me so much, and I couldn't be there for him on his deathbed." In 2017, another former YG artist caught up in a K-pop cannabis scandal. Former Big Bang member t.o.p had been accused of consuming marijuana, and he admitted to smoking a few times in 2016. t.o.p received 2 years of probation. He completed his military service but lost his position as a conscripted policeman. But as we know, this whole case was blown out of proportion due to his status in the K-pop industry. In 2020, the K-pop industry was once again hit with a shocking drug case, but this time with even more illegal drug. Popular TVXQ member and JYJ Trio member, Park Yoo-chun, was arrested on drug charges. This was revealed to police due to Burning Sun investigation. On April 4, 2019, Hwang Ha-na was arrested, and during the investigation into the relationship between Burning Sun and drugs, it was confirmed that Park Yoo-chun, who was in a relationship with Hwang Ha-na, had used methamphetamine, and this was covered in the news. And the activities of these two began to be covered in the media as a side incident related to the drug issue of Burning Sun Gate. It was confirmed that he had undergone a drug test by the police with most of his body hair removed. In connection with the positive reaction described later, it is estimated that hair removal was done intentionally to destroy evidence. However, police was able to obtain CCTV videotape in which he was seen buying drugs. For reference, there is a police interview review saying, "Even if there was a negative drug reaction, the circumstantial evidence was so clear that he would have been prosecuted in the end. Since we have secured many videos of Park Yoo-chun buying drugs alone, as well as videos of him buying drugs with Hwang Ha-na. I don't know how many there are because there are so many." According to news reports, Park admitted the drug charges against him after initially having repeatedly denied the accusations. On July 2, 2019, Park was sentenced to 10 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years, and a fine of 1.4 million won. He has since completed his probation without violations. The next idol on our list is another second-generation idol who has a history of getting into trouble with the law. Kangin, a former member of Super Junior, was first arrested in September 2009 when he was involved in a fight outside of a bar. Although those charges were later dropped after it was proven that Kangin had acted in self-defense, this would prove to be far from the end of Kangin's legal troubles. Only a month later, in October 2009, Kangin was arrested once again, this time for a hit-and-run accident. According to reports, the K-pop idol had been driving under the influence of alcohol when he collided with a parked taxi and then left the scene. Kangin eventually turned himself in 5 hours later. He was recorded to have a blood alcohol content of 0.082% when he arrived at the station. He then failed to show up at the Seoul Gangnam police station at 2 p.m. on the same day for further investigation and had to be called in the following day. On January 13, 2010, Kangin was indicted for drunk driving and hit and run and fined 8 million won by the Seoul Central District Court. Kangin's troubles continued in May 2016 when he was involved in another drunk driving incident, this time crashing his car into a streetlight pole in front of a convenience store and fleeing the scene. However, he was soon apprehended by the police, and his blood alcohol level was measured to be above the legal limit for driving under the influence in South Korea. On September 7, 2016, Kangin was sentenced to pay a 7 million won fine. Kangin is no longer a member of Super Junior and is now seen as one of the most problematic second-generation idols. There are actually many idols who got caught driving under the influence. One of them is After School's Lizzie. On May 18, 2021, Lizzie hit a taxi with her car while driving in Seoul. Upon the arrival of law enforcement at the scene, she was determined to have a blood alcohol content of 0.08. As a result, she was charged with a DUI, ordered to pay a 15 million won penalty, and had her driver's license revoked. Another one is former Shinhwa member Shin Hye-sung. His first DUI was in April 2007. At the time, he had a blood alcohol level of 0.097%, above the driver's license suspension limit of 0.08%. His subsequent DUI was in October 2022. He was arrested for drunk driving after he was caught sleeping in a reportedly stolen vehicle. He also refused to take a breathalyzer test, his company said. Shin Hye-sung had a meeting with acquaintances at a restaurant in Gangnam around 11 p.m. KST on October 10th and stopped on the road and fell asleep after receiving car keys from the restaurant valet parking staff. He was arrested for refusing to take a breathalyzer test by the police. There is no excuse for his behavior, as he was driving under the influence in a vehicle that he didn't even know was not his vehicle. We deeply apologize to everyone. We will update you on the situation once we become aware of the exact situation. Once again, we apologize for the inconvenience. Shin Hye-sung was initially sentenced to 1 year of probation for possession of a stolen vehicle and refusing a breathalyzer test. In 2023, the prosecution appealed the lenient sentence and sought a 2-year prison sentence instead. However, in April 2024, the court upheld the initial 1 year of probation. On May 10, 2024, his sentence was finalized as neither he nor the prosecution submitted an additional appeal. Now let's get to the horrific crimes that idols committed. Once a prominent member of the K-pop group Big Bang, Seungri's career took a dramatic downturn in January 2019. He was implicated in the Burning Sun scandal, a complex web of allegations involving prostitution mediation, illicit gambling, and embezzlement. The scandal centered around the Burning Sun nightclub in Seoul, where Seungri was accused of arranging services for potential investors and engaging in overseas gambling activities. In August 2021, a military court sentenced him to 3 years in prison, which was later reduced to 18 months on appeal. He was released in February 2023 after serving his sentence. However, after he was released from prison, people think he is trying to do the same thing in countries where you can easily bribe police officers. Another disgusting human being is Yoo-chun. On March 11, 2019, it was alleged that in 2015 and 2016, Young had secretly filmed his own encounters with at least 10 women and then shared the videos with friends in chat groups. The allegations surfaced during a police investigation into Seungri for allegedly providing prostitution services and resulted in Young being investigated as well. The following day, Young retired from the entertainment industry, admitting to crimes that he had filmed women without their consent and shared it in a chat room. On March 21st, Young was arrested over allegations that he illegally shared explicit videos of women taken without their knowledge or consent through a social media chat room on 11 occasions. On April 19, 2019, a woman came forward to SBS, claiming that 5 men, including Young, had raped her in March 2016 and then shared an audio file and photos of the incident in a group chat. So as more accusations came, his sentence increased. On November 29, 2019, Young was sentenced to 6 years in prison and a mandatory education program on crimes for gang-raping drunk unconscious women. On May 12, 2020, Seoul High Court reduced Young's sentence from 6 years to 5 after he submitted documents expressing his regret. On 19 March 2024, Young was released from a prison. He was not required to wear an electronic ankle tag or disclose personal information, such as residential address and identifiable photographs in the S-Offender Registry, as it was being subjected to the judge's discretion in the initial sentencing. Now his friend who was involved in gang-raping a woman is another idol named Choi Jung-hoon from FT Island. Choi denied the allegation, but admitted that he and the woman were together on that day. On May 10, 2019, Choi was arrested on the gang rape allegations and was indicted on charges of taking part in a gang rape in 2016. On November 29, 2019, Choi was sentenced to 5 years in prison. On May 12, 2020, Seoul High Court reduced his sentence from 5 years to 2.5 years after reaching an agreement with one of the victims. On November 8, 2021, it was reported that Choi was released from prison. All this shows that the South Korean court system completely doesn't care about women. Another male idol who is facing criminal charges for the same crime, gang rape, is NCT's Tail. On August 28, 2024, SM Entertainment abruptly announced that Tail would be removed from the NCT lineup as a result of an investigation tying him to S offenses. The investigation reportedly began following a report filed by an adult foreign woman in June, said to be the victim of the case. On September 13th, the Seoul Bangbei police station announced that the case had been handed over to prosecutors the previous day. As this case was moving and still is moving slowly with little information, only a bit later, the police revealed the severity of the crime. It was later revealed on October 7th that Tail was reported to the police with 2 other men for aggravated quasi-grape, committed when a person commits grape while in possession of a weapon, or while 2 or more people act together to grape a victim who is incapable of resisting. On March 4, 2025, Tail was indicted on the charges, but they are not saying anything more. Well, we're going to see what's going to happen in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.